Hey guys, it's Fun Genius here. So, in a couple of videos, like our last videos, I talked about like plant hormones, and we're going over those, auxin and gibberellin, so we can kind of understand kind of how those hormones play an influence on the way that plants grow and develop. Auxin being the hormone that induces root growth, but also it's the reason of also is the hormone that affects how plants act or function when they're in light, like how they grow compared to like the light that's touching them. So like if light's hitting from one side, the plant will be directed to go to the right so they can get the sunlight. Or if light's being hit to the left side, the plant will go to the left to get to the light. That's auxin being the main contributor to that process happening. Or with gibberellin, looking at our internodes, those spaces between where like spaces between nodes happen, those growth points, that's controlled by gibberellin, and that's affected by darkness and things like that. So like if it's darker, the internodes will be like longer, and if it's lighter, the internodes would be a little shorter and stubbier. So like how they affect the plant in those aspects. But now we're gonna be talking about like things like temperature and other things that affect the plant growth. So let's get into it. So guys, we're gonna be talking about like vernalization, or pretty much like the process of like some type of transformation that happens with like some type of cold period that allows the plants, more so biennial plants, to like um flower or seed in their next generation or the next year. So let's take cabbage for instance, or like lettuce for instance, right? So you ever just had like a lettuce plant and you left it over in like your greenhouse, or maybe like a lettuce plant's outside and you forgot that you left it in your garden, and then you came back and it's like, oh, well, and the next time it came back, it actually had flowers and it was growing and it had buds and seeds, right? So that entire process, that's fertilization. So like what happens is like these plants, they get prepared, and for a lot of these biennials, like to seed and flower for their next season, if they're biennial, that means they live for 2 years. What they do, or 2 seasons in a sense, they what they do is they need that cold treatment to that like cold temperatures to be like a hit. And then what will happen is like those like the roots store the energy and then they'll come back. So the roots will store the energy. This will die off a little bit. And if the temperatures are nice, because the soil is more insulated than it is above ground, so when it'll be like cold, cooler, but necessarily cold underground, that'll be that cold treatment. So if that is stable and the roots survive and the plants survive, then the next year that it grows, what'll happen, it'll bolt. And bolting is a process of like a stem shooting up and straight really fast out and flowers, and then it'll seed, and then that is done so the next generation can come, right? So vernalization, you can do it for a lot of plants. Like a lot of plants go to it, and it could be even a dormancy too. But when we're looking at most of it, when we're looking at it mostly, it's more so like seeing how like plants flower and seed, and talking about more so about biennials. Like you can like technically peppers are perennials. You can like if you bring them inside and you store them and then let them cold, because they're not like lettuce or other type of plants where they can actually store their roots, like the energy in the roots, and like come back from that. Because if it gets too cold, the plant it'll die, it'll get cooked. So if you bring a pepper inside, you prune it and you trim it and you let it sit inside, and you bring it back out the next summer, you can still keep that pepper plant and use that for the next season. So yeah, that's a little stuff in that too. So again, like vernalization is just like pretty much a cold treatment, and it can either be something that happens outdoors with the a biennial plant that's able to survive underground, like with the root system, comes back in the next season. They come back and they sprout and they bolt and they have their seeds. Or it can be a dormancy for an indoor or outdoor plant that can't necessarily survive in cold temperatures. You bring them in, you let them be like in a 45 to 30, well, 30 degrees to 45 degrees Celsius temperatures. You keep them cool. You trim them, and then you bring them back out the next season. They'll grow just right as new. So that's just my little diagram for vernalization. I know it's a little minute, but it's not too much to it. It's just we're looking at how temperature affects plants, and from this we're looking at reproduction. So cold treatment comes to bolting. Bolting gives us seeds. Without the cold treatment, this can't happen. So that has to happen. Or sometimes the plants could just be there for a long time. Like even though with like lettuce too, if you leave lettuce for a while, eventually it'll bolt. And that bolting is like when you taste those leaves, it's nasty. Like it'll be sour and tangy, because now they're putting all their energy and effort to like seeds. So there's no more putting all the nutrients into their leaves and foliage, because they don't care about it anymore. They're trying to get the new generation. So all that nutrients, all that good stuff that was stored in here that previous season, now when this grows, is going all the way to this, because they're like, nah, I'm not worried about myself. I want my kids to live on and grow. But yeah, that's kind of that whole thing. So yeah, I hope you guys learn a little bit from that. I know that was a little short, but yeah, vernalization, again, it happens in some species and some it doesn't. But check, do research to see what works for it, what doesn't. But again, this is our series kind of about like what affects plants. So I thank you guys for watching. And remember, I may be a plant genius, but you can be a plant genius too. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.